Hello, hello, everyone. Good evening. Happy Wellness Wednesday. And welcome to the Think, Learn, and Feel Rich Book Club. I hope everyone is absolutely love the chat. Hopefully, you can hear me. Okay, there we go. Hi, Natasha. It's always great to see a wonderful typing in the chat. Welcome in, everyone. Come on in. If there's anyone you think should be here tonight, because we're talking about assets tonight, our favorite thing. Hey, Levon. Happy holidays, everyone. Great to have you back in the room, Levon. And I'll be making this announcement throughout, but as you join, if you need help getting into the chat, always use the YouTube app. So let's dive in. So we are this month, for the next few weeks, we are discussing my book. Here it is, Think, Learn, and Feel Rich. And tonight we are going to be talking about assets, which is chapter 3 of the book. So if you have your copy with you, it is going to start. I have multiple copies of the book, so on page 28. So that's where we're starting off tonight, is on page 28. But before we even start, I would love to know any key takeaways from chapters 1 and 2. Like if you did the assignments, I would absolutely love to know what were your thoughts from chapter 2. And if you've only gotten to chapter 1, which is completely fine, I would love to know any key takeaways, because last week we discussed expenses, we discussed income, and basically being able to evaluate our income and expenses, our revenue and expenses, to determine if we have income. So let me know that in the chat if you don't mind sharing. Of course, sharing is optional, but also sharing is caring, because I believe in collective knowledge. All right, so welcome in again, everyone. So as you're dropping in your reflections from chapters 1 and 2, we're going to get started on chapter 3. So if you would like to turn in your books to page 28, welcome into the room, everyone. Let me know where you're joining from. Meet some new people in the chat. I know I've met amazing people by going to different lives and things of that nature. I've met some amazing people in the chat. So definitely get to know one another. So chapter 3, let's talk about assets. Drop for me in the chat. What are some assets that you all love to talk about? Anybody have some favorite assets that you like to talk about? Let me know in the chat. So first of all, let's define what an asset is. An asset simply is anything that makes you money, or any money you have access to. Real simple. We're going to keep it plain and simple today. So an asset is anything that makes money for you, or any money you have access to, right? So let's talk about that. Awesome. Hey, okay, so Natasha. Okay, well, that is awesome. I love Palm Springs. I used to go there all the time when I lived at home. Yes, I love this, Natasha. So, if you're just joining us, we are actually having Natasha is doing some reflection from what we talked about last week, and she's saying that looking at your expenses doesn't have to be fearful. It could be fun and illuminating. Exactly, right? It's data, right? It's just data points. It tells us what we want to keep doing and what we want to change. And then, I love it. So these are some assets Natasha likes to talk about. She likes to talk about silver, crypto, and land. And the earth is not producing any more land. So land is land. If it's there, that's it, right? Awesome. Hey, Terry, welcome in. Hey, Andrea. Awesome. Excellent, excellent. So any other assets y'all like to talk about? Okay. So let's talk about what are some different assets. So some of you in here are very familiar with assets. So here are some more assets that Andrea is talking about pre-IPO. So that is before companies go public. Basically, that's what that means for anyone who is new to this conversation, or you're watching a replay. Stocks, HSAs, health savings accounts, 401ks, and other things, right? So I like to make sure you all know what some of these things mean, just in case you're not familiar with the acronyms. All right. So Terry likes to talk about land, stocks, and 401ks. Excellent. So basically, the ladies hit the nail on the head, right? These are some common assets that we all know about, and there's many different types of assets. So if you're new to the conversation, anything like cash, your family heirlooms, or like jewelry can be assets. If you have collectible items, if you have, again, land, real estate, your retirement accounts, 401ks, 403bs, 457s, defined contribution plans. I actually have someone I was talking to was talking about a discretionary plan, discretionary. We got real estate, right? We all know about real estate. We got foreign currency, small business startups, right? So you can invest in small businesses and potentially earn a portion of the profit. There's REITs, real estate investment trust. There are many different types of assets that you can take part in. Silver, gold, various commodities, things like that. So as I'm talking on page, or as you're also learning from other people in the chat, on page 34, if there's an asset that kind of sparks your attention as we go through, you can actually write it down in your book on page 34. Okay. So write it down in your book. What type of assets are you like a little bit curious about, right? Do you want to learn more about? So there's high yield savings accounts. There's E-Trade accounts, which can be classified in some instances as a brokerage account. So a brokerage account are accounts in which you can trade stocks, bonds, ETFs, which are exchange traded funds, mutual funds, things of that nature. You can have IRAs in those, so individual retirement accounts. Crypto, right? I already talked about REITs. So as you know, the list can go on and on with assets. So if there's an asset you want to get more familiar with, you're dreaming of getting it, maybe you want to buy some more real estate, jot that down on page 34 in your book. Because as we started this conversation 2 weeks ago, we started out with goals and dreams. And so anything that we actually want to have, we have to intend it. So write down anything either you want to increase. You may already have a lot of these things. You may be very well diversified, and maybe you want to increase in a certain area. Like maybe you want to get more into crypto, or maybe you want to get more into commodities. So think about, what are your goals towards increasing your assets? So let's keep going. So we're on page 28 in the book. Okay. And this is a controversial topic, so I want to know what y'all think about this. So a lot of people think that their home that they live in is an asset. Put a 1 in the chat if you think that the home that you live in is an asset, a 2 in the chat if you don't think it's an asset, and a 3 in the chat if you think it depends. So I'll say it again. Do you think that the home that you live in is an asset? A 1 for yes, a 2 for no, and a 3, it depends. Let me know in the chat. And if you read the book, you already know what my opinion is. So I just want to know what y'all think. Okay. Terry says 3. Okay. Who else? What else we got? And remember, y'all, this is a judgment-free zone. So everyone has, different opinions, which is why I love collective learning. But, I want to share something that I learned from one of my mentors. Okay, very good. We got another 3. So this is a savvy group. So for those of you who may be watching the replay and you're like, I'm not really sure, or maybe you think, yes, it is an asset, because it does build equity. But remember the definition of an asset, right? A definition of an asset is something that's either making you money or liquid money, basic money that you have access to. And if you're living in your home, one thing is that you really don't have access to the equity unless you either you sell it or you take out a HELOC, home equity line of credit, right? Like it's not just like liquid, like you can go tomorrow and pull money out of your house, right? Like it doesn't work like that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so let me define 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, if you say, yes, your home is an asset, it can be if you use it to generate some type of revenue. that is definitely can make your house an asset. 2 is not an asset if you are only paying expenses on it, meaning it's not bringing you in any money and you're not leveraging the equity in it. Okay, so if it's just a place to live, which we all need shelter, no judgment at all, it's not necessarily an asset for you at this time. Okay, because guess what? You might be paying a mortgage. And even if you don't have a mortgage, see, Terry, thank you. Because some people be like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm like, it depends. The answer is it does depend. So if you're just paying taxes on it, paying a mortgage on it, paying insurance on it, money is going out. There's nothing coming back to you at this time, again, unless you sell it. So that's where the it depends comes in on the home that you live in. So I want to share a story with y'all. This is how I actually did turn my home into an asset. So when I quit my job, I fired my boss for my 40th birthday. I, had a mortgage. And so I just decided that I was like, you know what? Instead of trying to figure out paying this mortgage and what have you, I'm going to rent this house out and I'm going to go live with a friend, right? And which I didn't mind because I had my own floor and it was great. And so I basically made profit from renting out my house. And that actually helped with income coming in, right? Until I got my business revenue to a certain level. Now, basically, I got kind of like addicted to that. And so I actually never moved back into my house. And now it is rental property for me. And so another thing which my friend did was rent out rooms in their home. So let's say you have a home, it's just you, and you have a lot of bedrooms. A lot of people here in Texas, I'm actually in Texas today. A lot of people here have these ginormous houses and it's just one person living in there. And maybe you want to rent out some rooms in your house. That is a way to turn your house into an asset. Or some houses here have these really cool mother-in-law suites. They rent out the back house or whatever have you, or the front house, wherever it's positioned. That's another way. Or they rent out the garage. In New York, people rent out their basement. So there are ways to turn your home into a revenue generating asset. So when you think about a home as an asset, that is a way to consider it. And thank you, ladies. I appreciate it. Yes, I am all about passive income streams. So I talk about my story actually on pages 28 and 29 in the book. So if you need some ideas on how to generate revenue from your home, definitely check out page 29. And then the other thing is liquidity. So if you go to the bottom of page 29, when you're thinking about assets range from super liquid, which is like cash. Like if you got cash at home, cash under the mattress, cash in your safe, that is like the most liquid you can get, right? All the way to say like your home, it has equity in it. Now you can get equity out of your house, by certain procedures. And that is a little bit more illiquid because if you either have to sell it or you have to get a home equity line of credit. So if you do a home equity line of credit, it's kind of like going through the mortgage process again, in a way. There's an application process, etc. So that means it's not as liquid, meaning you can't turn it into cash basically quickly. So that's how you look at liquidity. You have super liquid, which is good old fashioned cash, all the way to things that may take 30, 60, 90 plus days to actually access the cash that's in it. So when you're thinking about assets, you want to have diversification across liquidity, because just in case you need an asset to, maybe you want to purchase more property, maybe you want to purchase commodities, you need to have liquid capital to be able to do that, especially depending on how fast the transaction has to occur. So any thoughts about liquidity? Excellent. Thank you, Natasha. Natasha is our commodities queen. We love her. And excellent. Silver can be liquidated very quickly. So anything like silver, gold, what do you call it? Fine commodities. I always forget the term. But those types of things, you can actually liquidate fairly quickly as well. All right. Thank you so much, Natasha. I love everyone contributing to the conversation. So let's keep going. So let's talk about your assets now. So now this is where we're gonna the rubber meets the road. Okay. So a lot of this book is very reflective, looking at where you are now, where you want to go, and some different ideas on how to get there. And the key is just to, like Natasha mentioned earlier, let me see if I can find her wonderful comment. She said, this is the whole point. Looking at your expenses, looking at your income, looking at your revenue. It doesn't have to be fearful. It can be fun and illuminating, because I believe finance is fun. And again, if you give your money a mission, to me, that's what makes it all the more fun, because I know, for example, the money that I'm putting away long term, eventually that money is going to go to my niece and nephews so that we can create basically generational wealth. So for me, it's fun looking at that account grow for them. All right. So Natasha says that Kim Kiyosaki bought her first investment property, liquidating some of their silver. That's awesome. So she must have had a gang of silver. That is amazing. So you can leverage different assets to get even more assets. And so one of my personal missions, that anytime I have money coming in, a portion of that money is going towards purchasing assets. So that's amazing. So let's talk about your assets. So now we're going to do an asset gathering activity. So in your book, if you go to page 32, okay, that is, and again, you do not have to do, hey, Jen, welcome. Again, you do not have to do this in the book. On page 27, you can scan the QR code, and on the QR code, there all the worksheets are there. So if you want to have it a little bit bigger, and you can send that to yourself, and you can fill these worksheets in on your computer. I was just like, who can see this? This is too tiny. So that's why I made a fillable PDF workbook. Everyone is saying hi to you, Jen, Natasha. Hey, Marty, you finally made it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, oh, Marty, do I need to get you your book? I just thought about that. That's my friend Marty Bell, everyone. She's coming in from, well, I don't know where you are right now, but that's my friend Marty. So welcome in, welcome in. All right, so we're talking about your assets. So if you have the book, okay, I owe you a book. We are on page 32. Okay, so this is where we're going to talk about your assets. So if you don't have the book, go ahead and grab your journal. Okay, and we're going to get to the fun. Now it's time for fun. So grab your journal, grab your book, whatever you have, and in the worksheet, you're going to start listing out what your assets are. Okay, so whatever type of asset you have. So if you have a 401k, a 403b, a 457, an HSA, a high yield savings account, a brokerage account, you might have multiples of each. This is where I want you to have fun, because guess what? If you're writing anything on this paper, you're already wealthy. And it doesn't matter how much money you have in an account. You started, you planted the seed, and now it's time to reap the harvest. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is just literally just a list of all your assets. It can be real estate. It can be silver. It can be gold. It can be bonds. It can be stocks. It can be exchange traded funds, known as ETFs. It can be mutual funds. Whatever you have, just start to jog your memory, and then also show gratitude for those things. And just remember, look, I'm already wealthy. I have this account, that account, this account, that account, and write that down. Do you have a pension? Oh, thank you, friend. Yes, I'm appreciate you, Jen. I'm actually in my friend's headquarters. I'm in Texas, and she has an amazing setup. And she was like, girl, you just come to my house and do the live. I said, thank you. So yeah, she has this great office here. I was like, I'm gonna be like her when I grow up. But you know, in Texas, you have all the space in the world. So thank you, Jen. So are we having fun yet? Ladies, are we writing down all of our wonderful assets? I know, Natasha, it's all the girl. I love my friend's house so much. It's like amazing, like how she had it designed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never seen a house like this before, and it is fantastical. Um, so yeah, um, you know what? Possibly, Jen, possibly, so y'all know, I'm in these different wealth circles, right? And so, I always talk to y'all about it. And a lot of my friends want jets and yachts. And I'm like, listen, as long as I can ride on it, I'll put something on the gas. I'm like, you know what? Let's do it, right? Yes, Natasha, everything is definitely bigger here. Okay. Okay, so are y'all out there? Y'all doing y'all work? Y'all writing down y'all assets and seeing how wealthy you already are? The fact that you even have these accounts with a blessing. So write those down. It doesn't have to be in your book if you want to do your fillable PDF. But make sure you write down. Just start to and show gratitude for those accounts. So that's part one that we're doing, right? We're asset gathering. That's what we're doing, and we're reflecting. So what you're going to do for your life work, because Jen recommended life work. I don't call it homework, I call it life work. You're going to actually complete the worksheet, which is on page 32, where you're going to fill in what type of asset it is. You'll fill in what's the current value. And well, we don't have the yacht yet, Natasha, but we getting the yachts. Okay, so once we get the yachts, then I'll be able to rent and invite. Or maybe, my friends might be so generous as to be like, girl, just take it whenever you need it. Thanks, friend. So here's your life work. And if you need the instructions are featured on page 30. So you're going to document all your assets on the sheet. You're going to write out the current value and whether you're contributing to it monthly. And Jen, this is for you. If you are contributing monthly, you can give yourself some gold stars, because remember, dollar cost averaging, right? That is a consistent amount going into your accounts so that you can take advantage of compound interest and things of that nature. I'm not going to go into the whole logistics of that, but trust me, you want to contribute regularly every month or every week as often as you can. And it doesn't matter what the amount is, you just want to make sure you do it regularly. So those are the things you're going to fill out on your asset sheet. That's your life work, okay? Wealthy people, because I'm talking to wealthy people here. I'm not with wealthy mindsets. So wealthy people understand what their money is doing, and if their money is doing what they have purposed it to do, right? Because if you read the word doesn't come back void, right? So you want your money to do what you have purposed it and missioned it to do. And then once you have documented your assets, there are some journal pages, page 33 and 34 in the book. On page 33, any questions you have about your assets, I want you to document those on page 33 or in your journal, because sometimes you have assets and you don't even know why you have them. You don't know if it's working, it's not working. So write down any questions you have for a financial professional on page 33. And then on page 34, if you just came in, I want you to go ahead and what assets are you dreaming of purchasing, right? For me, one of the things I want to do is just get a bigger capital base. Because I'm very transparent with people. I always invested. I started investing at 16, but I was never a good liquid cash saver. I started. I am now, but before I just was like, just invest money and then more money will come. But liquid cash has a place in your life. Trust me, because I learned the hard way when I had so much money locked up in investments. You got to have liquid cash. I had to learn that the hard way. Okay. Because when you have emergencies like I did today, that liquid cash comes in handy. Trust me, because I needed to get into it ASAP. So let's see. So Jen told me to borrow the yacht. No problem. Y'all, see, that's why you got to be live, because this chat is lit, y'all. You have to be in this chat, because I told y'all finance is fun. Finance is not just about, oh, my numbers suck. No, ma'am. This is like, okay, my numbers aren't where they are today, but remember, it's just an appearance. It's not your self-worth, and it's temporary. Everything is temporary in life. Nothing is permanent. So just because you have $1 in your bank account today or whatever it may be, doesn't mean you got to have a dollar in your bank account tomorrow. Everything can change if you purpose in your heart to do it. So yes, we are doing life work. So life work, the instructions are on page 30. And the questions that I want you to ask yourself when you're doing your life work are found on page 31. So here's some questions, food for thought. If you haven't thought about these things, you may have, because this is an advanced group. But just in case you share it with someone who's new to this conversation, here's some questions you may want to ask. And when you're thinking about what assets you want to perhaps get more involved in, do you want to own stocks? Yes or no? Maybe you don't want to own individual stocks. Maybe you want to own groupings of stocks like exchange traded funds or mutual funds. Maybe you want to get into bonds like municipal bonds, because municipal bonds are not taxed, right? When you withdraw the money. Would you like to invest in real estate? And you don't have to own physical buildings to be invested in real estate. Remember, you can do REITs, REIT apostrophe S, REITs, real estate investment trust. I am invested in some private ones, some public ones. Fantastic way to get involved in real estate without actually being a landlord. So I've done it all, every way in which you could think of it. And being a landlord is not for the faint at heart, y'all. Because honey, yeah. Anyway, we know that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about assets. Okay. And the last question is cryptocurrency on your radar? So that may be something you're thinking about getting into, right? So the main thing I want to leave with you tonight before we wrap up is any asset you want to get involved in, make sure you do your due diligence and do your research, and or work with an expert to help guide you through these transactions safely and intelligently. Okay? Because the main thing is that, especially if you're new to the game, get some guidance, get some help. So, because any investment that you make can have risk attached to it. And if you don't have the stomach to have a loss, like I have invested in something and lost my entire investment, but it did not stop me from investing, because I still had investments that were still bringing return on investment. So you have to understand what your risk tolerance is when you get involved in certain investments, so that it doesn't deter you if something doesn't go the way that you want it to go. Because quitting is definitely not an option when it comes to investing. Do not quit on yourself. That is not an option if you want to obtain wealth and financial freedom. Okay? Yeah, it's just a lesson. Exactly, Natasha. We just learning lessons. And I like, this is right. This is right here, Terry. We want more, please. This is what my wealth community, we say more, please. You want some more, right? Because anything that you don't use, you can pass it on to the next generation. All righty, y'all. So any last minute remarks before we wrap up for tonight? So we are wrapping up assets, lesson 3. Thank you all for your attention, for your time in the comments, because I live for the comments, because that makes it all the more fun. And if anybody wants to join me as a special guest next week, I think it's Christmas Eve next week. So, but I mean, I'll have to wrap up my cooking. We're going to be talking about saving. So if anybody wants to be on as a special guest and talk with me about savings, all the chapters are ultra short. So we'll be talking about your savings journey. Oh, savings is actually a longer chapter than most. So yeah, we'll be wrapping that up on Christmas Eve while I'm cooking. All right, y'all. We'll have a wonderful night. And like Terry said, we're going to end on that note. Use wisdom when investing. Have a great night, y'all. Thank you, Marty. Glad you could make it. Thanks for coming. Good night.